Any other way, you're surrounded by love and you're wanted, so never feel alone. You are home with me, right where you belong. I know sometimes you're feeling lost. It's hard to find your place in it all, but you don't have to fear. Even when you mess up, you always got my love. I'm always right here.
When you don't have a safe place to come home to, nothing in your world seems right.
This is a place where I don't feel alone. This is a place that I call my home.
Help turn things around for a child. Become a foster parent.
Alarming statistics about foster care youth. More than 23,000 youth age out of U.S. foster care every single year. 60% of boys who age out of foster care have been convicted of a crime. 7 in 10 girls who age out of foster care will become pregnant before age 21. Only 3% of youth who age out of foster care will earn a college degree. 1 in 4 youth who age out of foster care won't graduate from high school or get a GED. 1 in 2 youth who age out of foster care will develop a substance dependence. With these statistics in mind, please consider partnering with Destiny Dynasty Incorporated through donations or volunteering as a supports counselor to help these young adults reach their full potential and overcome these alarming statistics.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner!
Go. Excellent. Yeah, I saw you guys out there. We're the family.
Yeah!
Oh, I thought you were on my team.
Hey, Denise.
Hi, Steve. It's so awesome to be here.
Yeah, it is awesome to get this on the show here, get this off the ground. Fostering Legacies. It's about to come true. We've been working behind the scenes to get this together, and thank you for all your hard work.
Yes. No, thank you for yours. This is awesome.
Yeah. Why is it important now? I mean, this show is going to be on every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and pretty soon we'll be on some radio stations and broadcasting around the country, and we're going to highlight different states as we go along. This show will be on weekly, but as we go along through the months of talking about the foster care system and some inspiring stories along the way. We're going to bring on some experts and research and literature to kind of get a better understanding of what's going on in the here and now, because it's very important to get that message out.
It is. It is. I believe that so many people go with not knowing how bad it is and also how disruptive it is. So, getting this message out, getting people to understand and see what is happening is going to be so helpful, not only to the children, but just to the whole foster care community.
No doubt. And, there are a lot of great programs out there that you can hang your hat on, like the Boys and Girls Club, or the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, or different things that support youth and youth-based programs. But the foster care system is usually dictated by social services. So it's kind of like the invisible um, focus that's put on them, and at times they get lost in the shuffle.
They do. I also think that it's to the point where, even though it is definitely protection for the child in some cases, it could also be kind of imploding for the child. And so the resources that I believe that the show will bring on, the experts, the understanding and knowledge will definitely help us to help them. That's what we want to do.
No doubt. And I think what's important to know is that these kids, these young people, are struggling, and sometimes they're being bounced around from home to home, from shelter to shelter, from residential program to residential program, from school to school, not knowing where they're going to be. And the initial videos that we saw before we came on kind of highlights that a little bit, because it's kind of a trust has to be established
There you go.
real quick, and sometimes you can do that and sometimes you can't.
It's actually really hard to establish a trust with a child that has been um, to different homes. The first home, maybe, possibly even the second, but if they have continued to be passed on from home to home to home, they get numb to it and they don't see the reason to even connect. And sometimes they just don't know how.
Right. And we both are passionate about this issue for a lot of reasons. I mean, first of all, why don't you explain a little bit about what you do right now, and I'll explain a little bit about myself, but then we'll go deeper, because we just didn't appear on this show. We have some personal experience to share as well. So, Denise, why don't you tell our new viewers and listeners out there about a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a mother of five wonderful children, one girl, which is the oldest, and four boys, which keeps me very busy, by the way. I am currently on the journey to eventually, ultimately, get my PhD in mind body medicine with a specialization of complex trauma and the healing process. I'm on the shamanic path, which is how I was able to really heal myself and, be able to give back. Um, I have a successful podcast called the Healer's Realm Podcast, and I'm just here and ready and excited to just give back and, meet all the wonderful people that we haven't met yet that we're going to be able to help.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. And a little bit about myself. I'm a psychologist. I'm a father of three. And my passion has been over the years is to kind of bridge that gap between communities, between families and individuals, because I think sometimes when the bell rings at school time, that's when the challenges and adversities become real prevalent. And so, having lived that when I was younger, I kind of know that feeling. So I've been determined, with God's grace, to continue that path, but to kind of empower, inspire, and help others and put them in the right direction. So I've worked in hospitals, I've worked in schools, I work in community-based programs. We have a nonprofit called Chapters Community Support Services. We have a network of 17 shows, this is one of our newest shows. And like I said earlier, it's going to be on every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think the advocacy efforts that are needed are so very, very important right now, because if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that we really have to band together, because there's more isolation and more division and more confusion than ever. And I think it's shows like this. There's a lot of great people doing a lot of great things around the country, and it shows like this that we need to get the advocacy out there, the awareness, the education out there of what's going on in the foster care system. So I've been driven to do something like this, and we met over a year ago now. And when we found out we were both products of the foster care system, it was just a natural, organic union here to do something like this. And I think sometimes it takes a little time to get things at the proper pace of where it should be. So I believe it's perfect timing for us to do this. I believe we could take it slow just as fast as we can, as long as we together collectively can inspire others. And I'm so very happy that we've joined forces to share our experience, but to also empower others along that journey.
Exactly. Empowering them, giving them voices. That is my greatest hope, is to give them a voice that they didn't have, or they didn't even know they had. And so I believe that this is going to be such a beautiful journey. I'm so excited and happy that I'm teamed up with you. You have an amazing story, and you've been doing so much within the community already. I know that this is going to be effective.
Yeah, it's going to be effective, not only the show, but we're also in the midst of putting a book together that we're going to in the next year, get that out there. And we're looking to have summer camps to support these different agencies, these different families and different children around the country, to really bring people together, because I think that's what it's all about. It's about unity, not division. And I think it's time for that. Now, our title of the show, Fostering Legacies. Why that title, Denise?
Because as foster children, I remember when I was in foster care, um, of course, at the time when I got older, I knew, my mom and my dad. I knew, where I came from. However, I still didn't have that connection of a kind of a legacy, a kind of a belonging. And so I believe that a lot of foster children go through that. I've spoken to foster children that went through that. And just to be able to give them the idea that they could leave a legacy, that they are our legacies, will help them and give them a peace of mind and also confidence within themselves. And so I believe that this is the perfect, title.
I no doubt about it. And the title, Fostering Legacies, we're going to talk about the foster care system, but also some of the inspiring stories that have come out of the foster care system. But let's go back to a place you were when you were younger. And then I'll talk about myself, because you just mentioned, have gone through the foster care system. And we had a pilot out there a couple of months ago. So this might be repeating it, but I think we have a lot new viewers now and listeners that I think we need to hear your story one more time.
Well, and you know what? I just got used to telling my story. It was something that I didn't really tell. And actually, I don't even think I told my story to my children, as far as how the memory of me entering into foster care. Well, I actually entered in when I was like maybe about 8 to 10 months old. And I didn't remember that part. I remembered bits and pieces of it, but the real memory came in when I went back into foster care. My mother was able to get me back, and this is in Denver, Colorado. and is a little bit traumatic. So, trigger warning, everyone. But I was in Denver, Colorado, and I was about maybe 3 or 4. And the things that I remember is I remember these men coming in a white pickup truck, and they beat my mother with a baseball bat. And all I remember was them reaching for me in the corner. The next thing I remember, I was on a trampoline, jumping on the trampoline, and I had on this beautiful red and white dress, and it was laced and it started to unravel. And my mom said I needed to take it off because I messed up the dress. And so I was down to my underclothes. I didn't have on, I don't believe I had on any socks or shoes. My mother had on, I believe, like a pink robe. And she just said, let's go meet Jesus. Let's go see Jesus. And I don't, all I've heard about Jesus, she used to watch Benny Hinn. And so I was like, yeah, I only heard good things about him. I didn't really know what that meant, except for he was a good person, right? So it had already snowed. Snow was on the ground, and we're walking in the snow. And mind you, I only had on my underclothes. And a Caucasian couple came and picked us up in a beige pickup truck and gave us a blanket. And actually, I remember before we even got picked up, my mother falling on the snow, and I guess it was more so ice, and she scraped her hand, the palm of her hand, and she was bleeding. And so when they picked us up, they asked, if we needed to go to the hospital. And she agreed, and we went to the hospital. The next thing I know, a doctor was coming in there and asking me questions. And then the next thing I know, I was in a emergency foster home being served pancakes in the middle of the night. And so that was my experience on how I re-entered foster care at about 3 or 4.
And how was that for you?
I did not see anything wrong with it until I got older, and I was like, this doesn't make any this was not supposed to happen. This was a really traumatic event because there are things in my memory that I can't remember. And so I know that there was more trauma there, but I can't remember. But when I re-entered foster care, the first time I was in foster care, besides the emergency home, I was with an amazing couple, and they were incredible. One of them is from the UK, and the other one is from right here in the United States, and that's me. And I actually went to go see them last month in October. And that's me in my Halloween outfit. And they actually still had my Halloween outfit. They had my Halloween outfit. My picture was on their wall, right with their other children. And that picture was me in like a sailor's dress. And it was a wonderful, beautiful experience. And so I didn't see or know that I was loved that way. I was thought of that way. I was cared for that way. Just, they even had my immunization records. And, they had letters and journals of when they had me. And the next foster home that I went to, I had some wonderful, incredible memories with them. After I came from the emergency foster home, it was another couple that was Caucasian. One person was from Australia, and the other person was from Idaho, right here in the United States. And they had been fostering quite some time, and they actually adopted two different, they actually adopted a couple of couples of children, what is it called, brother and sister, and they wanted to adopt me. And I kept in touch. I actually found them again in 2015 and kept in touch. And I was able to also see them last month as well.
Wow, that is very inspiring. And I think that, it's probably the foundation of who you are today. I think without, it seems, without those folks stepping in, we don't know what would be of Denise at this point, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And truth be told, it was because I think because I had that experience, that's another reason why, for me, and I love how you said bridge the gap in between and unify. For me, it was never. I knew that there was people that did not like me because of my skin tone, and of course, I've been through racism. I have stories. I think a lot of us do. However, I could never say and judge somebody just because of the complexion of their skin. I've had those moments of kindness, of love, of support that I had from people that were did not look like me were moments that I can't, take like, I can't get rid of. I can't say it didn't happen, no matter what I go through in life. Those moments happen. And even today, just as I said, I went there last month. Were open arms. They were so excited to see me. I mean, the smiles on their faces. That was it's priceless.
Wow. This is Fostering Legacies. That's Denise. I'm Steve. And we're going to be here every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Denise is just sharing her journey in the foster care system when she was younger. And I too went through the foster care system and 9 different homes and shelters, and bounced around to different schools and placements, and split up from my younger brother at times, and got into my only physical fist fight in a shelter back then. I lost. I broke my arm. And so, you know, and it was way before cell phones and all that kind of stuff. So when you left, you didn't have any contact with the friends that you made. And as you went along in that process, I was a little hesitant about making friends because I knew I was going to leave. And the ultimate, my mom had a mental illness. She had MS. My father had left at a young age, and she was left to raise her 2 boys and my brother Richie and I. And she had challenges, and she didn't have the internal resources or strength to raise us on a consistent basis. And back then, women with mental illness was kind of not looked at. It was kind of swept under the carpet. And so my mother really struggled. But as the older boy between my brother and I only wanted to go back with my mom. I couldn't wait to leave every foster home I was in to go back with her. But in the meantime, my brother loved everywhere we were in and didn't ever want to go back because I kind of sheltered him in a lot of ways. And I felt like I needed to be with my mom. And I felt like, did I do something wrong, or what was really happening? And you see family doesn't step up at times, and it's a very, very confusing time. And if you don't have that support, I remember moving into a school district the day before school, but because they didn't have our records, I couldn't start school for 2.5 weeks. And I sat in a room for 2.5 weeks. Or I remember another time going into a classroom in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, and just being sent by the guidance counselor into a new class, in second grade. And it took its toll on you when you were younger. And sometimes you make good choices, and sometimes you make bad choices. And I always look back on those years as challenging. But there was one family, and I have only one picture to share, is with the Capobiancos. They both passed away. They're both from New York, and they took my brother in first, and then I came in a couple months later. This is them with my children later in life, and Giovanna in the overalls on the right, and Angela on the left. And I wanted my children to know my story a little bit. I wanted them to know that where their father came from. And um, it was a very emotional union. We had dinner. We spent the day together. And at the end of the day, they called them Graham and Gramps. And Mrs. Capabianco would make them Christmas stockings every year. And we'd always have that for my two daughters. And like I said, they both passed on, but that was, and they had three daughters of their own. And but living in their home, you learn what a family dynamic should be like. You learn that families go to church. You learn that families eat dinner together. And so having experienced that experience helped me along the way as well. And this show is going to highlight other kids, other young people that may have great situations or not so great situations, but we're going to point them out and what needs to be changed in the foster care system, because no child should be bounced around that many times. Unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. But our first video I want to show, her name is Sani. She became a radio disc jockey, and she was a product of the foster care system. So let's check out this video together. It's a short video, and we'll talk about it and see what your thoughts are.
Thank you for listening to The People Station. I am Sani, sitting in for Miss Candace for your middays. Foster care has been a blessing to me in so many different ways. I stand here today with no regrets about foster care whatsoever. Being in foster care has made me appreciate my family. I love my family dearly. I come from a two-parent home. I have an older brother, a younger sister. I had a very good childhood. Some things happened with my father where he had to be deported back to Nigeria. That was when I was 8. And I believe it just took its toll on her. My mom has had other things that have happened in her life, and I believe it came back in the form of mental illness. That's how I got into foster care. Her mental illness, it was just too much.
They called me and asked me if I would take her. I said yes.
When I first came there, I kept calling her Margaret. She was like, oh my God, don't call me Margaret. I called her Granny and it stuck. Yeah, to this day, me and Granny, that's my Granny.
Oh, I liked her, but see, I like kids.
Granny provided a sense of stability, a place of comfort, a place of love.
Here, these kids are my kids. You know, I mean, I've had the county say to me, these are not your kids. And my response is, oh yeah, they're my kids.
She definitely had a loving home, and she provided a place where I could feel safe, a place where I was allowed to be human.
Be a parent and be in their corner and on their team at all times.
Change a life. Change a life. If you have the heart space, for lack of a better word, if you have the heart space, I know my life would be different if I didn't have Granny.
What do you think? Sani is a Minnesota disc jockey, and without foster care, she wouldn't be doing what she does.
Wow. I think that, you know, it could go different ways. It really depends upon the home. And just like she said, her foster parent gave her a sense of stability. I think one of the things that had occurred with me is, even though that when I first entered in foster care at a young age, I felt like I had that stability. I felt like I had the sense of family and understanding. I remember you were saying something about how you guys ate dinner together, and that was actually a thing. I had that then, and as I got older and grew through the foster care system, I was in about 11 homes, at least 11 homes. I thought it was 10, but my foster parents told me that I actually was in an emergency home before I came to them when I was 10 months. And so I didn't have that sense of stability growing up. And I remember there was a foster parent. Her name was Idola Davis, and unfortunately she passed away. I was able to attend her funeral last year. And and then also a lady by the name of Minister Kennard, When I was in their home, they gave me a sense of faith. They were the ones who introduced me to church. And I'm telling you, when I got introduced to church, I went 7 days a week. And I experienced God in a way that I never experienced before. And if it wasn't for them and their ability to show me that experience, I don't think I would be on the same path as I am today, as spiritual as I am, and just having the deep faith that I have. And so it really, just the foster care, the home really depends on the direction of where the child goes.
I mean, that's well said. That's well said. Every show we're going to have a quote, and to kind of look at, and our viewers to look at and mull over. And tonight's quote, want to pop it up on the screen there. As foster parents, we are asked to not only care for the basic needs of a child, but also sit alongside them as they digest the hurt and damage they have undeservingly experienced. What are your thoughts about that?
I feel like that's what our jobs are. When you accept a child into your home, and obviously, if the parents, for some reason or another, is no longer in that child's life, whether it be for temporary reasons or permanent reasons, there was some trauma there for the child. And to expect a child to come into your home as a foster child and not to have reminiscences of trauma is a disservice. And the way that you could really truthfully help a child, I believe, is first, helping yourself to be aware of these things, and understanding that the child isn't coming in and saying, I want to have a bad experience. I want to be a bad child. They got to that point because of one reason or another. They want to have good experiences. They want to have a good life. And it's to see how to make that possible.
Well, like I said, we're going to have a couple inspiring stories. And our first show tonight, we have 3 other inspiring stories that we want our viewers to see right now. So let's check out that little video clip.
It's important to feel that somebody cares about you. Just to have the stability of being able to stay somewhere and feeling like you belong, not feeling different because you are in foster care.
Seeing the experiences of life through these children has really helped me to realize that even in my own life, God has given me so much, and He has blessed me with so much. And I want to be able to share those same experiences with these children and to be able to be a blessing to them as much as I can.
A lot of these kids feel they don't belong because they have passed through home after home after home, and they feel like, wow, nobody gives them a chance. Nobody wants them because maybe of their age or maybe what they've been through. If you have a heart, you can turn that around as a foster parent. You can. And they will learn to love you. They will learn to trust you, but it's what they've been through that you have to work on.
The impact foster parents can have on the kid's life is tremendous. I know from working with some teenagers that I've talked to who are now adults, they'll say that time period that they were with those foster families, they had so many new experiences. They went to school every day and really gained a lot of knowledge that way that they may not have gotten, and really had some great role models for whatever length of time they were in that home. They'll never forget that experience.
When, you're loving and you have empathy and you have care, and you show that to a child, it's a distinction between mom, and mother in this house, or dad and father. right? I have a mother, you know, I came from her uterus, right? But she's not my mom. You know, my mom is this woman right here. And she, gave that to me by showing up and doing the work. And in turn, I said, yes, yeah, I accept you as my mom. You're right.
These children should not know they're in foster care. They are in need of a good home, safe home, disciplined structure until parents get themselves together, if that is possible. If not, they might need a place to stay. And that's what I'm here for. That is my passion.
Foster care has been an awesome choice for our family. It's not always been easy, but it's always rewarding. You get to see them grow and you get to see them change and you get to see them heal and work through hard things that are in their lives that they need to work through and they need to overcome, and it's just really awesome to see that.
Yes, I would. I would. Even though sometimes I tell myself, why why am I doing this? And especially I say at 76 years old, I'm doing this, but it's like they need somebody. That's the car that spins around. You going around like this and then it spins.
The only roller coaster. I think a lot of the myths are that I just can't do it. We have such a variety of foster families who do a phenomenal job. We have families come in before they have children and they do great. We have families who have little children who are amazing. And we have families that are older who do this, that do a wonderful job. So I would just tell them that they can do it and really just encourage them to take that next step.
You're a teacher in some ways. A teacher who, lives at home with a kid, but a teacher nonetheless. And good teachers are extremely important. They guide us, they change our lives. And I think it's the same thing, for foster care.
It's very emotionally charged when you see the success stories that are out there.
When you don't have a safe place to come home to, nothing in your world.
Emotionally charged when you see the success stories that are out there.
When you don't have a safe place to come home to, nothing in your world.
Emotionally charged when you see the success stories that are out there.
When you don't have a safe place to come home to, nothing in your world.
Do you hear me, Denise?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we're gonna talk over the video here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. When you see that video, what are your thoughts about that, Denise?
I believe that it was a wonderful video. It depicted exactly what a child really wants and needs, and that what a big difference a particular home could make.
I was amazed. You see all the smiles at the end, first of all, but then the woman, she said she's 76 years old. She's asking herself why she does that, and then the next scene you see a little girl coloring on the kitchen table, and right there, that's I think that's what we're all put here to do, and I think this show is going to be determined to look at the pitfalls of the foster care system as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked out Minnesota because we've been talking, but the first time we met was in Minnesota. And so we're going to highlight different states over the next couple of months. But, there's some pictures of you and I and some others in Minnesota a couple of months ago. And then we're going to show a hearing that took place about the foster care system in Minnesota. There's me and you and getting ready for our first pilot show. And I'm a big Vikings fan. That's you and I again, and outside Bloomington, getting ready for the show. I'm a big Vikings fan, so I'm always wearing purple, and you're wearing purple there. But, Denise, do you see color?
No, I don't. I see opportunity to show kindness to whomever needs it because I would want the same for me. If I continue to show or see color, how could I expect others to not see it in me?
Right, right. And I think that the beauty of that, what you just said, and the show that we have, is because obviously we have walked different paths, we have taken different roads, but we're here together. We're all part of God's kingdom, and there's no color there. There's no color barriers, and I think that's what divides this country sometimes, is those barriers that really affect us. And Minnesota is struggling in the foster care system, just like a lot of states in this country. So they had a recent assembly and some hearings that let's take a peek on what's going on in Minnesota.
Members of the Senate Health, Human Services, and Housing Committee met Tuesday, November 3rd, to hear testimony relating to the status of Minnesota's foster care system. Just prior to the hearing, committee chair, Senator Kathy Sharon of Mankato, commented on some of the topics under committee review.
So today's hearing is to take another look at a part of the child protection system, and that is when that unfortunate circumstance happens, that a child needs to be placed someplace outside of their home for stability and for safety, that the foster care system is able to receive those children. We want to understand the adequacy of that system. How do we license that system? How do we supervise it? How do we support the families that accept children into their homes, especially because oftentimes it's very traumatic and creates a special kind of a child that needs very special attention. We're also asking people to tell us about the gaps and the inefficiencies and these insufficiencies of the system, especially as it relates to the number of foster care homes that we have and what supports these families need in order to do a good job, not only just holding children in their home as a place to live, but providing supports to them that they need at this time in their life. One of the concerns is the fines that the department has received for 3 areas. One is the timeliness of the reporting on a youth survey for children in foster care. We were fined for not meeting those standards. We were fined also for the kind of circular activity that children placed in foster care experience, meaning they're taken out of their home into foster care, then reunified, and then replaced again in foster care at numbers that are really of concern at the federal level. So we were fined for that. And there was a third area, the timeliness with which our counties were visiting children who were in foster care. We apparently have been failing to meet the standards by which counties should be making these visits to foster families on behalf of children who are placed there. So those are things that we will be asking the department to talk to us about and strategies to resolve those shortcomings.
The Department of Human Services provided committee members a brief background of the foster care process in Minnesota, including how families are selected and what happens when a child is placed into foster care.
When a child is removed from their home, determinations are made at the local level regarding the placement setting. Some agencies have emergency shelter care, licensed family foster care. Sometimes children are placed with relatives. Sometimes they are placed into corporate settings or other settings determined to be in the child's best interest at the local level.
The committee also listened to a presentation of the county foster care system and heard testimony from numerous people working in the field, including foster care families and a former foster care child.
I want to encourage you to invest in foster care. Right now, foster care is something that doesn't get a lot of public attention. It's not supported by the philanthropic community. My last role, I was director of development for a treatment foster care agency of 3 states, and getting grants, getting individual donors, nobody wants to invest in it. And then you compound that with the low the reimbursement rates that you get, and you can't fund it. I mean, quite frankly, we support our lost animals in the Humane Society better than we support kids who end up in the foster care system.
A recurring theme throughout the committee hearing was the need for more foster care families. Recruiting and retaining those families is a serious problem confronting the foster care system. one that lawmakers, state and county officials, and foster care families themselves continue to work through.
If there is a loving, nurturing home interested in becoming a foster family, we need to make that happen.
For more information on Senate committee schedules, visit www.senate.mn.
Now, Denise, that's 8 years old, but I mean, it could happen just yesterday, right? I mean, the same issues
Same thing.
are right there. And what took me, the gentleman was talking, and he was saying that there are people that don't want to fund the foster care system, but they'll fund other efforts that are not dealing with children. I'm not taking anything away from the animal lovers and the support for animals. However, we have to take a good, long, hard look at this. And this is what gives me the passion to do what we're going to be doing. What are your thoughts?
That stuck out to me too. And it's true. It's true. There is funding in different areas where children are really suffering. I just not being able to get grants, or people not wanting to donate and pour into these kinds of efforts is startling.
It's very sad. That same gentleman mentioned that his efforts were between 3 different states, and the same song and dance, the same theme that exists. We're picking out Minnesota right now because we're going to be traveling these different states and talking about the pitfalls and the successes of these states, but bring it all together because these children need a voice, they need a platform, they need a light. And I think that when you see these stories, when you hear these tales, we can't stop. I mean, it should never, ever, ever end because there are a lot of challenges and traumatic situations that are occurring. We're going to stay in the state of Minnesota. Here's a news report that I think it's a good story, kind of combats what we just saw right now. But let's talk and let's look at this news clip from Minnesota.
Oregon's struggles with foster care are nothing new. The state is managing a system responsible for more than 8,000 children.
Yeah, very challenging. Arliss Haas shows how the power of a dedicated foster parent and a Portland foster care charity turned life around for a man from McMinnville.
It goes all the way back to being taken away from my family at the age of 7.
Anthony Preston and his siblings were removed from their home by the Department of Human Services. At that young age, he didn't understand why.
I was confused, angry. It was like, why am I not with my family? Why am I not with my parents?
That actually is the story.
He later learned drugs and alcoholism were the reason he was placed in the foster care system. That's where he spent the next 14 years until he aged out at 21. He spent those first several years going from house to house to house.
I honestly can't even count how many different homes I was in.
Taken away from all he knew, as a child, he felt like he was living among strangers.
Most of them try to do their best to make you feel comfortable, but that's really hard when when you have no idea how long you're going to stay there.
The instability, chronic stress, and trauma took its toll on him.
In the beginning, I got in a lot of trouble. I acted out a lot in class. Because I was angry and I was confused and didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why I was different than all the other kids.
Most of the time, that bad behavior had its consequences. But from 7th grade to senior year, Anthony got to stay in the same foster home. That's where he met his closest foster brother, Shiloh Hampton.
Having Shiloh with me it gave me a sense of family. It gave me a sense of being able to be a big brother, which I felt was stripped from me when I was taken out of my home and placed in the foster care system.
Starved for acceptance, Anthony and Shiloh fell into the wrong crowd.
He ended up going to Lloyd Center and hanging out at Holiday Park right across the street, which, if most people know, it's not necessarily the safest place. But he was hanging out with a group of friends that weren't always the best influence on him, and he ended up getting caught up in a gang-involved shooting.
Shiloh was the only one hit.
After that, I realized, I got to turn it around because he can't turn it around for himself, so I got to be able to do it for him.
In high school, Anthony decided to find a healthier way to cope with trauma. He started sports.
I got involved with, different communities that actually gave me that sense of family that I didn't actually get necessarily at home.
The woman who kept him in line all those years was one strict mama, Anthony's beloved late foster mom, Mrs. Washington. Her structure and unconditional love helped propel him in the right direction.
She showed me a really consistent love, raised me to be the man that I am today, and I would not be anywhere close to where I'm at without her.
His newfound drive and perseverance brought him into an elite group. Anthony became the 35% of foster youth to graduate from high school.
Let them know that there's a way out of that life that doesn't involve anything illegal.
And went on to become the 2% of foster youth to graduate from college. He received his degree in criminal justice from Western Oregon University. He's now putting that degree to use.
Spoiler alert, I'm a police officer for the city of McMinnville. Okay.
Speaking on stage at a foster care fundraiser, Anthony picks up his story with how a Portland foster care organization helped change his life too.
The reason I'm telling you my story isn't to make you feel bad for me. It isn't so that you guys will feel sad and guilty and then you'll want to give a lot to Project Lemonade. I wanted to tell you my story so you can see where I started from to where I'm at today and how the amazing organization that is Project Lemonade has got me to this point.
Project Lemonade operates 3 programs.
Project Lemonade provides foster youth with a free shopping event so they too can begin their school year with new clothing, shoes, and confidence. Overall, fostering hope in foster youth.
I think everybody knows that as a kid, all you want to do is fit in. A lot of times the way to do that is by having, new clothes and having the cool clothes. You want to be stylish. As a foster youth, you don't get those opportunities very often.
But Project Lemonade was more than just clothes for him. The founders behind it, like Rhonda Meadows, provided jobs, resume building, and even a place to stay. She was there for him when times got tough.
He was able to jump over all the hurdles that were put in front of him. He's full of perseverance and just a strong leader.
It wasn't just me, I guess. It took a village of people to rally around me in all different aspects of my life to help me get to where I'm at. So, I don't think it's ever just one person. It's a combination of the community that they have, and I just was lucky.
In McMinnville, Elise Haas, KOIN 6 News.
And it gets even better. Anthony just got married. He and his wife hope to be foster parents someday and keep paying it forward.
That's quite the story.
It is quite the story.
Holy cow. And there's more. He's also the first African-American officer for the city of McMinnville and the police department there. And later he wants to go on to be a school resource officer to further support children.
Sometimes you just need somebody to believe in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Sometimes you just need somebody to believe in you.
That is so true. A lot of times I've seen that some people project their hurt, their pain, their experiences on other people. And, as a foster child, I was called, damaged and bad. And I heard in his story that that's what he, basically thought he was. And it really did take that community to show him differently and to let him know that he had more inside of him. Just like she said, he was the one who persevered.
This is Fostering Legacies. We're here every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're focusing in on the state of Minnesota. And Minnesota is looking for good foster parents. Let's check out this quick video.
All this week, Minnesota has been highlighting the need for adoptive parents to help kids stuck in foster care. Hundreds are adopted each year, but hundreds more remain. Fox 9's Rob Olson tells us more about what's called Circus of the Heart.
The decision to adopt a child or a sibling group, just like becoming a parent in any other way, is a life-changing experience.
Nikki Tharago is Deputy Commissioner of Minnesota's Department of Human Services, and all week DHS and MN Adopt have been holding an online event called Circus of the Heart. In its 24th year and the second held virtually due to COVID, filled with activities and videos.
It's your second chance or third chance or whatever. They're there for you.
All about honoring those who've adopted kids out of foster care and encouraging more to do the same.
To see kids that are finding permanent placements where they feel loved and they can thrive is certainly a gift to many of us that especially those that get to work directly with them.
In the past year, more than 900 kids have found homes, 60% with relatives, which is the priority. But right now, there are 641 kids in the Minnesota foster system waiting. And that, they say, is pretty typical.
I got into this work because I adore children and wanted to do my part in supporting families and supporting children and seeing them thrive.
While the event is 1 week, concluding on Sunday, November is Adoption from Foster Care Month in Minnesota. And the need is not just 1 week or 1 month.
But it is a significant decision, and one that deserves to be explored if people are interested. And I would ask that if people are interested, reach out to your county social service agency or your tribal social service agency.
Rob Olson, Fox 9.
And those interested in adopting a foster child can connect through mnadopt.org, or you can find them on Facebook.
You know, it's interesting because each state has grassroots efforts that caring people, passionate people are willing and wanting to do. And I think it's our job on this show is to heighten that, is to give them that platform, and so others will be inspired, because this pandemic has really changed things. But obviously you went through the system, I went through the system. There are thousands and thousands of other kids that are going through the system, 300,000 plus in the United States. And so it's all about foster care, adoption, family, child. But the key word in that whole thing is love.
Love. Yes, love.
Love. And family is very, very important. And I think that you mentioned that you're a mom, I'm a dad. Our children are very important to us, but we really need to expand that horizon to other children out there. I'm so thankful that we have our first official show in the books here, and we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. And I think we'll have news and exciting guests along the way. But tonight was an icebreaker, and I'm so eager and motivated and proud of the work that we're doing so far.
I am too. I know that this is going to be a wonderful journey. I hope it has a little bit of challenges also. I'm up for the challenge. I'm up for the new beginnings that it could bring.
Yes, yes. And if you had to pick out one word to describe your journey in foster care when you were younger, what word would that be?
Well, would traumatic be okay? Because it was traumatic.
Yeah.
It was traumatic. It was traumatic, but it was also invigorating in a way, because it made me who I am. That was the foundation of who I became, and I love who I am.
And we're so thankful that you are that person. And for me, at times it was very sad. At times it was very lonely. Yeah. And I never felt the healing that I feel now, having experienced that when I was going through it. But as you look back on it, it's definitely there, as that young boy is a police officer now. So you never know what those seeds are going to do when you get older. But we're just about out of time. So Denise, we'll see you next week, okay?
See you next week.
All right. God bless.